Okay, this is number one for today. I read some of the testimony from the Rosas case, and what I want to do now is try to, I didn't realize some of the other details of that case. A few things. I didn't know that the national media, now understand something, Chief Markle and those Lieutenant Hooper, our case, that case, the way you did that raid, is being used as what not to do. At the fire department, we had videos of other occasions of fires where all firefighters died, explosions and things, and some of them showed that they violated all types of standard operating procedure that most fire departments use across the country, and some were quite obvious. You know, like, oh, that's how the cases in Corpus Christi, Texas, by the police department, that's how they're used in other localities, showing how substandard the CCPD is, Lieutenant Hooper. Now, a few things about that raid. I didn't realize that raid was for a marijuana charge. First, other departments, when they decide to use what's called a flash bomb, normally it's you're apprehending maybe a kidnapped suspect or a murder suspect that's armed and dangerous and all. I don't know of any department across the country that uses it for a marijuana warrant. Besides the fact that there are actual police in the city that are affiliated with methamphetamine owning homes where it's, and you're all aware of it, where it's properties where it's distributed, which we refer to as meth houses in Flower Bluff, Texas. Second, whoever the Chief Markle should resign just for that alone. Let me say, there were some younger cops. I have interactions with officers because I go to the park where a lot of homeless hang out. Last week, or about a week ago, when one of the missions was not feeding, I went to Burger King and just figured I'd buy like 5 hamburgers, just something cheap. And there was an officer that happened to be parked next to my vehicle, after my vehicle was parked. But I had to go back to the car to get the hamburgers out of the car. So I figured I'd offer one to one of the cops that was there, parked next to me. But he was a couple cars away, parked, you know, facing the road. So I got to my car and got the bag out. I was going to offer him one, and as soon as I walked to the cop car, he started driving away. I held the bag up and said, no, I was going to offer you lunch. He stopped. I said, I got a couple of extra hamburgers for the homeless guys, but if you want one, he said, he was nice. He said, oh, no, thank you. And there's a lady cop also. We have like a little dog that's real cute, and all the homeless kind of adopted that dog. Her name is Paisley, and I saw her the other day. And one of the lady cops, the guys were telling me, oh, she always comes by and like tries to bring food to the dog, and the guys tell me, you know, we feed her, and I know they do. But the lady cop's nice. And then a few weeks ago, I think they had a Thanksgiving meal for the cops, and they had leftovers. The guys told me, like, late at night, they're sleeping outside because they're homeless. That the cops kind of came to one of the areas where they sleep, and they woke them up, I guess, and they thought, oh, the cops are going to, and they just offered them some food. So you have some cops that are good cops. I'll tell you, if I had my daughter, some of the lady officers or younger officers know, what they did not critique here at the CCPD was, how in the hell did you justify using a flash bomb for a marijuana raid? This is the Rosas case. What happened in that raid, and there was Washington Post, national media covered this story, I didn't know. You raised the level of danger for both your officers on that scene, Mr. Markle, and for the residents in the home. Rosas had, I think, a disabled mother that he takes care of. And during that raid with the flash bomb, another officer shot one of the other officers on scene. Not only did Rosas shoot some cops, but a cop also shot a cop. And D.A. Skirka charged Rosas also with that shooting. So one cop accidentally shot another cop. Because you went into a house on a marijuana raid, you decided whatever supervisor decided to use a flash bomb should immediately resign from the PD. The chief should resign of this. You put your officers at risk there. Some officers are good officers. You raise the level of danger both for the citizens and for your own department by deciding to do that. And every article I read on that, even nationally, they're using CCPD flash bomb raid at Rosas as a national example of bad policing. And nobody in the local media did I hear the chief come out on that case and say something like, we're rearranging our procedures, and officers were shot that day because of the incompetence of the supervisors of CCPD that permitted such an incompetent thing to happen. So even if I was either the husband or the father of maybe one of the nice lady officers like and you let them be in a situation that you raised needlessly, according to every critique I read on this raid, you raised the situation needlessly to there was such a melee in that house that one cop shot the other cop. I thought you were apprehending a murder suspect, armed and dangerous type thing. It was a marijuana charge. So that alone, there's been no critique. There's been no chief coming out talking about that incident which made it to national media that I saw where he said, we had to critique our procedures, we're no longer going to do that. That's what you normally would do in a supervisory position. You had a bunch of lady firemen or firemen in general killed, and later they looked at it and said, oh, there were a bunch of procedures that the national standard says you violated. Normally a chief would resign. In our city, you have absolute zero accountability by the CCPD. So that's just first. You should understand that. For those local, commissioners and all, you should understand that raid not only raised questions about Skirka. During the jury, I listened and read through online why the jurors found Rosas innocent. And one of the women jurors said, when they were on the stand, it was obvious that some of the cops just openly were lying, but the others did not lie. The other cops realized what really happened here, and that man was indeed taken by surprise and made multiple statements apologetically saying, I didn't know you were cops, which is quite obvious. And much of those are the 22 pieces of exculpatory evidence that Skirka purposefully, with a deceptive mind, continues to break the law in this county. That man, what we're calling for, today my letters should have made it, the ones I sent out the other day, about another issue, but has the website. Today one should make it to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, President Obama. What we ask from Nueces County, Mr. President, is for a federal takeover of the PD in this county. Why, John? Look, if you watch all my videos, I've given you names, addresses, and people that crimes were committed against them by CCPD. Actual crimes. And the fact that these cases are making it to national media, what I just shared simply was the irresponsibility of the raid and how Chief Markle put his ladies and men in uniform at risk that they should have never been put at that risk. And one of the officers accidentally shot one of his fellow officers. That's the height of irresponsibility. In any municipality, that chief would be called in on the carpet, probably fired. Not only did that not happen here, the official response from Lieutenant Hooper is, there's nothing that we need to change. We do everything correct. If there's any crime problem, there's nothing about us. If there's any, you say, John, 24 homicides doesn't sound like a lot. Chicago gets that, in a month. For the size, Corpus Christi was rated #1 for dangerous homicides in the state of Texas. #1 and 2 for homicides. It's #2 across the country in Nueces County for corruption within the court system, the DA and all. But the reason it was rated, it's probably #1 now for homicides, dangerous crime in the state. It's because our population is only about 300,000. Look, you have Houston, and San Antonio's about 1 million, a little over. Houston's larger, Dallas is larger. So they do those ratings based on the size of your city. We had the drive-by shooting that happened in my neighborhood. I showed you the bank robbery. We must have a bank robbery. There's a Navy Army credit union over that way where I happen to be today. We have bank robberies, maybe on a weekly basis. There was more than one within the last week, actually. I don't remember, I had a bank there when I was a kid in New Jersey, or a Tanny Savings. I don't remember so many bank robberies. I don't remember so many drive-by shootings unsolved. And so what you do is you begin looking at maybe is there incompetence within the police department itself? And obviously there is, because they're using this example. So just for the local people that watch this, that alone, just from the standpoint of how they're running the department. I'm not talking about illegal stuff that I've reported over the years. Just from the standpoint of the good cops, Mr. Skirka obviously convinced some of the officers in this raid, and maybe those cops were mad, probably the ones that got shot. He convinced them to lie because the jury decided that. The lady that I listened to her testimony, she said it was obvious some of the cops there were lying. Those were the ones that Skirka was kind of along with, and those are the ones those were the pieces of evidence, according to Guy Williams, that the state illegally withheld or destroyed. Came out later. But then there were some cops who, when they swear to God under oath, I'm sure they were Christians. They probably don't know, Mr. Skirka, we just can't lie under oath. So you have some that are good. And for those good cops, for that nice cop that feeds the dog, what you did, Markle, in this case, you should immediately resign. I didn't realize how substandard that raid was until after I made those videos yesterday. So just from that one viewpoint, the national critique of the things I read, they're now using the raid of Corpus Christi, Texas, as what you never do. There was no pre-surveillance of the home, simply meaning if you're going to use a tactic called a flashbang, that's going to put not only the people in the home, the elderly woman, disabled mother of Mr. Rosas, you're not only putting them at a heightened risk, you're also putting your officers at a heightened risk because they're beginning to enter a residence, which was called a no-knock warrant. And you initiated it early in the morning, at midnight or 2 in the morning, where somebody's sleeping, a homeowner, and the first result, a homeowner with a past of gangs had retaliated against Rosas because he testified against gangs, and his home was, he was a victim of drive-by shootings, which is common in our city. So any normal tactic would understand, and you knew that the owner of the home, or the Rosas, you knew that he was, in the past, a man with no record, that gangs targeted his house. I hope you knew that. But they critiqued that raid as well, saying you're supposed to do pre-surveillance, meaning if you're going to use a raid that raises the level of danger both to the officers and to the citizens, you do pre-surveillance because you'd have to make sure, okay, we know the man is there that we're looking for. They did not do that. CCPD did not do that. They also did it on a charge for marijuana. You don't ever do it for a charge of marijuana. So there were tremendous problems all through that. And then the Skirka withholding of evidence in the case. Let me say, for those cops that lied on the stand, that there's citizens that lie under oath and on the stand. Some of them go to prison. But your standard is so tremendously low for this department. We call on Markle to come out publicly and to explain how he's now going to change the things that went wrong in that case. Because this case made it to national media, which I did not know. You should at least be accountable and say what went wrong in this raid. You should be accountable and say the reasons why there was no pre-surveillance. Who said it was acceptable to use a flash bomb in something where every thing I read from other agencies and so forth said that the raid in Corpus that was done under Chief Markle's leadership was so substandard it's going to now be used as what not to do. And you have no accountability for that. And Lieutenant Hooper continues to go on local media saying, oh, there's nothing that we're ever doing wrong. You have no introspection. You're putting the lives of your officers at risk by that. By the incompetence of the supervisors in your department. So that's what we're requesting. We want the feds to come in and to investigate this department. Also, this district attorney's office, where you've had multiple judges showing that the district attorney retaliated against people. That there's sufficient enough, just that came out, even in the courts themselves, that other authorities should come in. You need an investigation in this CCPD. Okay? This is number one for today.